Here we have a nice button. Now you'll want to punch, using your chisel blade, a slit in each brace approximately 3 millimeters from the button. This slit should be no longer than the width of the brace. Now this bottom piece, we will want to cut about a 4-inch piece of lace that we are going to glue to the inner surface of this lower brace. Take your fid and run it through the slit. This lets you know where it's at. Then you want to take your contact cement the best stuff is nice and runny and it's easier to work with. You don't get a lot of stringy strands. Then run a nice even coat of glue on the back side of this piece of lace that you cut. This is a filler. It fills the gap in the lace in the brace that goes through the back of your hood, that goes through the opposite brace where usually you'll have a problem with braces pulling feathers on birds. This eliminates that problem. Then you want to glue up into the pull tab area on both braces. This just gives you a nice stiff pull tab to work with. Let these dry. Then we'll want to glue that piece of lace to the underside of that bottom brace and roll it on so you get a nice good contact. Then you can take a chisel blade and trim off the excess and make it a nice tapered end so it'll slide through the slits in the hood and the brace when you are putting these in your hood. Next, you will want to fold over your pull tab area. This just gives you a nice stiff pull tab for your brace. Now that the hood is almost dry, we can start rubbing it out using the plastic plexiglass rod that I talked about earlier. This is really an exceptional tool because it's versatile. You can beat with it, you can roll with it. What we're doing here is beating out any lumps or bumps that may occur from drying. Because the slick finish and the roundness of the rod, it gives a nice burnish to the hood. Next, you can take the Craft Aid tool. This is an excellent little tool for getting down around the neck piece and those intersections that are sewn together. This makes a nice even joint between the hood material and the piping. And this can smooth out any little lumps or whatever. This is good for smoothing out. The skiver material will come through, as so is your threads. Next we'll want to go you want to remember that the more you rub, the finer the finish you'll get on your hood. The smoother it will become. You can see the burnished look as I'm rubbing on this hood. The thing I like about this plastic rod is it allows you to get into those rounded areas where your seam comes together. If your hood seems to dry out a little before you get to an area, spray a little water on it. This is what brings it back to life. Then you can beat on it and rub out any rough spots. Here we've taken the craft aid tool or modeling tool and we're just flattening out the neck piece. Next we'll want to pre-cut our beak hole. We've already scribed a line in, but before we go on and finish rubbing out the hood, you want to just lightly go over this beak hole with your number 11 X-Acto. This will make it a lot easier when you go to cut it out on the finished product. And you want to be exact. An even pressure. I use my ring finger there to help me stabilize my hand. You're just cutting maybe a fourth or a third of the way through the material. You want to make sure not to extend the cut, stop, and pull your blade out. Next you want to take your 9mm chisel blade and punch your front slit in the top of your hood for your Turk's knots, because they will be coming up next. Then you can punch your back hole, and then I use a smaller chisel blade. It's about a 5mm, and punch the center slit in the top of your hood. Next you can take the hood off of the mold, and you want to use your fid and run it through the front and out the back two slits. And this is just opening up the slits to work with, and then take your fid and run it up through the middle slit. This just makes it a lot easier when you go to install your lacing for your Turk's knot.